Yellow everybody, and welcome to Shakes and Fidget News. This is a new series we're gonna start on our channel where we're gonna go and dwell into the new updates, beta server tests, and everything else coming to the game. And boy, we have a nice one for the first episode. A new class is coming to our Shakes and Fidget game, and we actually got invited to do a survey, everyone did, and because the developers, the Playa wants for us or to express our opinion on the classes and which one of them we like the most, and that one would be selected as a new class in the future. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to get a notification when you to receive when there is a new video out. And also don't forget to leave a comment below if you want just to say hello. If you want to share your opinion on the new classes, actually, this would be really I would be really appreciating this because I'm gonna dwell a bit more on this topic in the next episodes. Bear in mind, I actually already recorded one episode for the Shakes and Fidget News, but it will be coming after this one because we have a limited time to provide the feedback on the survey. So I wanted to immediately tackle it, and hopefully we can decide which option is the best for us. But here you have it. So the survey for the new class, which will be a dark class. Now, what does this mean? We will see in a second. As in the previous surveys, we would like to integrate you into our development process again. Today's the topic about classes. Actually, like, if you don't know, there was a survey also for for example, for the Berserker class, the icon and similar. So they tend to do that, and this is really I really appreciate this because there is a lot of developers, a lot of games where there is just a one side um, sort of discussion, development, and push from the developers, and in most of the cases that, well, not in most of the cases, in a lot of cases it turns out quite bad because they could collect an opinion, and there is a lot of people out there who have great ideas, and they could contribute one way or another. And actually, some of these classes have been suggested by some players. And actually, here it says in the first survey for this time for the classes, we would like to ask which of three concepts appeals to you the most. This is specifically about the first impression of the chosen theme of the class, so no discussion about the abilities and similar. Actually, it says the class itself, after initial research of already submitted proposals for new classes from you. So this is exactly so people were suggesting classes, and they decided to select a couple of them and make a suggestion, a survey to select one of three. And he said here it says that we have decided the new class should basically have a gloomy overall picture. This stands out well from the previous classes, and most of your suggestions also went into this direction. As soon as the concept chosen by you is determined, we will present possible abilities for this new class. So first we will select the class itself, and then we would get the abilities for this particular class. As soon as in advance we have defined the following requirements for the new class's abilities, the class should fairly integrate into the structure of other classes. This is really appreciated because it does not make sense that it's too overpowered, for example, or that it's just completely different than everything else. I mean, Bard was completely different than other classes, but the point is just to have something which sort of can integrate nicely in with other classes as well. The wizard disables the ability. Now, this I am not sure what they mean. Maybe they are referring to that the mage would have some kind of counter against these classes, but we will receive this more. And battle should look exciting and varied. So obviously there will be a lot of RNG. But here are the classes. So the first one is the Necromancer, and I really like this art for the Necromancer. It says Immoral Soul Pusher. So let's see what it says about Necromancer. This unusual creature has the power to rip departed souls from their deep slumber. Skilled in occult, rituals, and forbidden spells, it expertly conjures cursed minions whose unholy existence is to submit to the will of their merciless master. Once risen, this tireless army of the undead finds its redemption only in battle. Nothing like a necromancer to raise your spirits. So let's, before go to the next one and the third one, and let's say I make a personal decision about which class I would vote for, I would like to give you a bit of sort of my opinion what this short description means, and does it gives us any insight on what the potential abilities can be. Um, Before I do that, I actually plan to tackle these classes a bit more in the next few episodes, where I would actually try and figure out where does this suggestion come from, where the sort of um, motivation for the class can come from, and what kind of abilities this class can have, considering some other RPG genres. So maybe we can figure out how the class itself could look like in the future. Necromancer is actually one of the most popular ones suggested, next to, let's say, Paladin and some others. But we can here safely assume, based on what is written here, because it says it expertly conjures cursed minions, and consider what the necromancer is, that the ability of the necromancer would be to raise the skeleton army in one way or another. Um, my personal opinion, or how I had it in mind, and I think it could work nicely. Now, it does not mean anything that it will be like that, and how other people have suggested. Maybe it is. I did not go deeply into what was suggested before, but I would go something in a orientation of what druid was. So druid in the past had three different masks. It had a cat, bear, and an eagle mask, and each one of them gave him a specific ability. So if you would be a cat, you would have a dodge chance, and you would be doing, let's say, sustained damage. If you would be bear, you would have increased hit points, and you would be doing a low to medium damage. And if you would be an eagle, you would be dealing more damage but have lower health value. So in a necromancer, I would expect that they would have a possibility to raise three different type of minions. Let's say one would be the skeleton warrior, which would be, let's say, considered the warrior just a skeleton, so a bit diminished, so a bit lower health pool, doing low amounts of damage. I mean, lower health pool than a warrior would be, but higher health pool than other skeleton types which necromancer could raise. So let's say he would have 2 times health multiplier for the skeleton, and then 0.5 for the damage. Then you would have a skeleton archer, which would be our scout, where we would have a 1 health, 1 damage multiplier. So he would be like a all-around class, or all-around skeleton. And then there would be a skeleton mage, which would have 0.5 multiplier on health, but 2 multiplier on damage. So sort of like to make a possibility to select one of the three options depending of the situation. So when you are fighting a warrior and you need to do a lot of damage, you would then conjure or do a skeleton mage. If you are fighting a scout, maybe the skeleton archer would be the best, or even warrior. So if you remember, I don't know how many of you have the idea of the old setup when there was only three classes. Each class was better than another class. So for example, mage was better than warrior, warrior better than scout, but scout better than warrior, better than mage, sorry, it was a circle. So something like that here as well. So depending on who you fight, you would select a different type of skeleton which you would be raising in the fight. Now here is also a question: how often can he raise? Like, can he raise multiple of them? And if a skeleton dies, can he raise another one? Or it would be something like the mage idea was with the sunstone and the moonstone, where you would just do one sun and one moon and that's it. So maybe something like this, so that you can sort of shuffle between the three and then you stop raising skeletons. Or it would be just a random um, raising a skeleton, which would go more into direction, let's say, of a berserker and a demon hunter, where if you're lucky enough, you get a great um, skeleton, and then, or I'm using skeleton, but it doesn't have to be skeleton that he would be raising. But let's assume it's a skeleton, so that depending on RNG, you would get 5 times skeleton mage, and then you would just rush through the dungeons. So it is sort of still questionable how the abilities would work. However, I think that it is safe to assume, based on this, it's that it is um, that he would be raising something. Now, the other possibility for the necromancer would be that he just applies some curses or something like this, but nothing like that is mentioned here. It's more about conjuring minions. Now, the second class is an interesting one. So the second one is a plague doctor, and it's a famous art with a this crow mask and similar. I don't know how many of you know about plague doctor as is let's say a concept at all. But for example, Plague Doctor also exists in Dungeons and Dragons, so it's quite a famous one. And I also know a couple of TV shows which have tackled Plague Doctors, not necessarily under that name, but under that concept for sure. And let's see what it says about it. It says exploring annihilating plagues on a relaxed afternoon is a welcome pastime for him. His knowledge of the interplay of various substances is unmatched, and his unconventional experiments on mostly unwilling patients cause many to shudder. The odorless gases of his toxic tinctures fog the senses of his unsuspecting victims, allowing him free rein to conduct further investigations undisturbed. In whatever way, any diseases must be eradicated for him. Announced house calls are his specialty. Again, let's from the text, let's assume what it can be. So considering that it says that his knowledge of interplay of various substances, unconventional experiments, odorless gases, so it is something. And I mean, you can see the concept art with these potion bottles and similar. um, it is safely to assume that this class will have some sort of ability where they would be able to toss different potions, um, elixirs, or gases. Um, the art itself, it's quite greenish, and these potions are green, so it could you could safely assume that it's some sort of a poison. So I would assume that his ability would be to toss a potion at the enemy with, of course, some RNG and similar, and this poison will deal damage over time. Um, this if we are going in a direction that there could be multiple different potions to select from, like again coming from the druid class and the masks and similar, then there could be an option to maybe have a poison, um, which would do damage over time, or a gas could stun for a 1 round the enemy, or something similar. Now, the problem with this is if we are going now into the direction now, already second class, where we are talking about having multiple choices, this go is somehow, let's say, going against this, should fairly integrate into the structure of the other classes. Um, at least from an aspect from that none of the classes which we currently have has a selectable um, ability. The druid was the only one. Then there was bard after that one, and both of them have been pruned so that you don't have the selection anymore. So druid was had the 3 masks, but now has only one ability, where every time he dodges, he does the swoop attack. So he's generally a bear, and then if he dodges, then he does a sort of rage attack, a swoop attack. A bard, he had 3 different types of instruments. Now he has only one. So it seems that they would not go towards the direction of having multiple options. So if we are now going back to the plague doctor, I don't think there would be a multiple options of having different poisons. Or if there would be multiple poisons or elixirs, potions, you would not be able to select between them. So they might shuffle, for example, or it could be also an RNG, just which one of them will be applied. Which again, we're going towards the Berserker and Demon Hunter situation. So it's safe to assume that it will be some potions. One of them or all of them would be poison based, doing damage over time. The only question is if there would be multiple of let's say different types of potions. And the last one is the trickster, the shadow player, eccentric shadow player. Between the three, I like the plague doctor maybe the most. Well, actually, I like this art the most, let's say, because it's purplish, souls, and similar. This one is okay. This one I like maybe the least. Not that um let's say a lot of details, but it is good. For what it should be, a trickster, it is really nice. But let's see what trickster says. His unpredictable nature lives for attention of his audience. Entertainment is his most important creed, and he is willing to use any means to perfect his dark performance. For this, he uses terrifying illusions and deceitful tricks to unsettle his audience. His confusing riddle rhymes have given many listeners bloody ears. The longer his tirade continues, the more grandiose his finale promises to be. In a surprising interlude, he can make a shadow image of himself appear, secure yourself a ticket in the front row for the best performance of your demise. So this one is a bit trickier, pun intended. Um, he's a bit trickier than the other two. The point is that in the first one, it clearly said conjure minions. The second one clearly said that he has different how it was substances and gases and similar. But for the third one, it does not say anything specific. It actually gives multiple things. So one thing is what they mention is the terrifying illusions and deceitful tricks. So okay, illusions, fine, but then tricks goes, I mean, if we are talking that this illusion is a type of a trick, fine, then the deceitful tricks come together. But then he's confusing riddle rhymes have given many listeners bloody ears. Now we are going into the direction of some sort of music, some sort of songs. So this one is illusions, this one is rhymes. And then the longer his tirade continues, the more grandiose finale. In a surprising interlude, he can make a shadow image of himself. So we have three different concepts within literally these 2-3 sentences here. From what I see, let's say if we consider the concept art and then what is written here about illusions and a shadow image of himself, a trickster could be something like a, let's say, blade master from Warcraft, where he creates multiple illusions of himself to fight. So if you're going to consider this as an ability, so what he could have is a, I don't know, 20% of chance when attacking, dealing damage, or some percentage chance of creating an illusion of himself. Then the whoever is fighting will fight the illusion first and then continues fighting the trickster. Illusion probably would receive some bonus damage. Would not make sense that it's one-to-one to trickster, because this means you are fighting three tricksters or five, or how whatever amount of illusions he can create of himself. So I think that in this case scenario, trickster would be something most similar to demon hunter, because if he can create an illusion of himself which has whatever percentage of his health or whatever percentage increased damage he would have, it's similar to how demon hunter resurrects himself with the 90% of his health, and then 80, and then 70. So the ever next illusion would receive more damage, but it would sort of reduce the damage the trickster is taken, because first you need to defeat the illusion before going to trickster. So I think it's probably going to do this direction of having uh, ability to create illusions. This riddle rhymes, I have seen one stream where it was mentioned about this, like a riddle rhymes and the best performance, and then someone said it seems something similar to bard. I would I don't think it's like that, because the bard is by itself unique. This is the idea of the bard. So having a trickster class which would have the same idea abilities would not make sense. Um, However, there is a good point there, because we had a bard who had three different type of instruments, and then he was proven to have only one. it could be that Trickster would be utilizing one of the other two. It's a potential, of course. It's a probable situation which can come from this. However, personally, I think it goes more into these illusions and creating illusions of himself or creating deceitful tricks or something like that. Now, can we think about something where we would have multiple selection or between? I would say one would be to create illusions, easy enough, but then what would be the other? Like, from a point of view to sort of create something else. I don't see a, let's say, a situation or ability which could be, unless the illusions can do different things. So if we have an illusion and this illusion just takes damage, then there is an illusion who deals damage, and or there is an illusion where if you attack the illusion, it explodes and creates damage or something like this. But most of them sort of revolve around the same thing, that like you create a illusion and just it deals damage. It's just different types of damage or something like that. So from that point of view, I think it would be just probably something like a demon hunter, but instead of resurrecting you with a health, you would create an illusion with 90% of your health or maybe 100% of your health, but just getting 200% damage from the players or others. So from that point of view, I think this is what probably makes most sense. And I, like, when I was searching on the official forums, and so far I have only found necromancer as a suggestion. The other two I did not. So it could be that the other two just came from the fact that they want a dark class and they already had a necromancer, but they did not want to implement necromancer as is. They wanted to suggest something else. So they selected a plague doctor, which is a common class in RPGs. Actually, as I said, it exists in Dungeons and Dragons. And then there is a trickster, which is also a, not maybe a popular class. It does exist in some games like Fire Emblem, but the point is that the trickster is more of a, let's say, jokey class, funny class. So from all of that point of view, I would say that the selection between the three, it's, let's say, okay, and all of them do fill the dark class fantasy. So I would say that the selection is really, really nice. I was initially going for to select the trickster, and I was thinking hard. But then last night, when I was reading about Plague Doctor, I somehow like the Plague Doctor more. I would not go for Necromancer because Necromancer is a class which is quite common. So I want to see something new. I like Necromancer. I know what to expect. With a Plague Doctor and Trickster, I don't know what to expect, and I want something where I don't know what to expect. The Trickster is something which I really like because I'm also jokester in private life, so I would really like to see how this works. But based on the description, I don't see anything which is so interesting for me. I hope that they would implement all three classes, but as of now, I would select a Plague Doctor for me. So the survey asks the following question. So which suggestion do you like the best? Plague Doctor. How do you like the design of Necromancer? I would say good. I don't know if they refer just to art or just the concept, the small description of it. General description is cool. It's just that I would not rate it great between the three. Plague Doctor, I would say very good, and the Trickster, I would say, well, it's also very good. It's really hard to answer this based on so less information that we have, because I don't know what Trickster can have. So if I would see the abilities, maybe it would be easier for me to decide which of the three I would like to have. But generally, this would be my answer. If I have any other further comments, I might have actually. But I will think about it. So I will see if I have any specific comment to give on the three classes here. Maybe just to suggest to share at least some sort of idea about the abilities in the future, or please implement all three because all three are great. But that would be all for this episode, and I hope that all of you would vote, because I think that Playa would really, really be grateful for our feedback, because then we all can impact the game, and this feels really, really good for us. But until the next episode, until the next Shakes and Fidget news, live long and keep on gaming.